Hello everyone, and welcome to Shedding of the Ego. Today I want to share with you a video titled 6th Street Confrontation, in which an intactivist was violently attacked by a pro-circumcision, unstable caveman. And I also want to tell you exactly what not to do whenever you encounter one of these individuals. I think it's an excellent case study in male-on-male aggression and violence worth exploring. So without further delay, let's get right to the video, folks.
Okay, so what's your deal?
Huh?
What's your deal?
What's my deal?
Yeah.
Dude, you're walking. If you're really gonna record me, I really don't care. But get the fuck out of my face, all right?
I mean, if you want to have a debate, let's have a debate.
Let's have a debate.
But you're
got a
fucking
child.
you're fucking knocking my
I'm
shit
pissed
out of my hands.
because you have a child.
I
Get
have-
that out of my fucking
I
face.
have part
Dude,
of my-
I swear to God, dude, I will fucking knock you the fuck out.
You're
If
in
you don't get
public.
that camera out of my face, I swear to God, dude, I'm gonna knock
You're
you the
the
fuck
one
out.
chasing me around.
Because you're holding up a sign with
I
a
have a
little
right.
baby with a fucking
I have a
bleed
right.
from his crotch.
I have a right. If you don't want to be,
It is free speech. but
okay.
don't-
Look, my camera's gonna be
Is
right
it
here.
free speech? Is he fucking saying anything with the poster? No, the fuck he's not.
Speech is not necessarily verbal.
What?
Speech is not verbal.
I have
so
a right.
one can't be offended by another, but you,
can
can
be
have the right
offended.
to say what the
you
fuck
have,
you
you
want.
have a right to do. You have
You can be
any
offended.
right you want to be offended.
Yeah, don't like.
But once you touch me, that's assault.
And then what's gonna happen? I'm gonna go to jail and I've got the money to bail out. So what?
So
I
you
didn't
have
learn
a-
my
so
fucking
you have
lesson.
a felony on your record.
Felony?
So
Trust
you-
me, it's
so
not
you-
a felony.
So you never get a
Trust
job
me,
again.
it's not a felony.
You said you have a kid. You want to
It's
feed
not
that
a
kid?
felony, first and foremost.
It's assault, yeah.
Assault and how many assaults happen between college kids every single year? Really? And they're not felons.
You're
Is it?
a college kid. Over here, you're an adult. So you're probably like.
Yeah, and you're not fucking. Huh?
Now the video starts with the anti-circumcision protester stating that he was slapping his protesting signs out of his hands, so right off the bat there's violence involved on the part of this tough guy here. Within 25 seconds of the start of the video, this meathead here is then threatening to knock the man out. So keep in mind that this is not some feminist SJW we're talking about here, but instead just some random guy who probably, by the look and talk of him, would be one of these guys, on the Red Pill subreddit talking about how alpha he is, one of those guys that absolutely loves picking on men who he deems to be weaker than him, as we'll see later on in the video. So about 40 seconds in, we see what I'll call the, quote, free speech, but only if I like your free speech fallacy, wherein this individual thinks that there has to be some qualifier to freedom of speech, other than the usual qualifiers of, don't stand up in a crowded movie theater and yell out the words bomb or fire or whatever, but actual qualifiers such as, is he making a point with his free speech and stuff like that? And not just any point, but again, a point that he considers acceptable. Now, where have we seen this before?
This is free speech if you're still concerned.
Okay, folks, I know what you guys are going to say. I just recently made a video expressing the idea that in the manosphere it's becoming a little bit too common for us to, rely on just ponage videos against, stupid, silly feminists and SJWs. And some might say that doing this myself makes me hypocritical, but I think that by showing the now infamous Trigglypuff here in this context, I'm actually doing the exact opposite. Instead of beating you guys over the head that, feminists and SJWs are inherently prone to illogical beliefs and just them, I'm attempting to show you that there are plenty of other groups of people that display exactly identical tendencies to suppress speech and to, if triggered, just like their SJW counterparts, resort to violence. The only difference here is that this guy, of course, is actually much more capable of inflicting physical injury, at least much more so than somebody like Trigglypuff. So after some bystanders explain to him what free speech actually is, he then goes on to justify assaulting the protester. And we've discussed this, this alpha male brute at length, gentlemen, but this is a perfect time, I think, to discuss one aspect which I don't think I've really covered in length. And that's the striking similarity the alpha male brute shares with, for lack of a better word, the stereotypical female prone to emotion, illogical mind. we can actually see his mind disregarding the logical definitions of constructs the human species has designed to safeguard freedom of expression from violent savages such as himself, so that everyone isn't walking around on eggshells, afraid of saying the wrong thing around one of these Cro-Magnons and getting their head smashed in. The resulting products of this artificial construct, this freedom of speech as we call it, led inevitably to a renaissance of human thought in science, in literature, in art. It led to the end of the Inquisition and the rise of an attempt to at least strive for an age of reason. We are, of course, beings that are driven by emotion. We're not perfect and we're prone to emotional displays and outbursts, but the curtailing of brutes such as this and their violent tendencies to smash the faces of the less physically strong but more rational-minded is a milestone of humanity that should never, ever fall by the wayside. And so we have to guard against it at all times, gentlemen.
Once you start acting like you're gonna hit me, that's kind of the end of the conversation right there.
Well, you don't find that picture offensive to people that have had their
You want to
kids
have a
circumcised?
debate? You want to have a debate? Let's have a
If you
debate.
want to have a debate, we can.
Okay.
But that picture is quite offensive. Because
I don't care.
Of course you don't care, because it's one-sided. It's your view against everybody else.
You know what else is one-sided?
What?
When I was strapped down as a baby and had part of my body cut off. That was
And you
pretty
remember
one-sided.
that. And you remember
Is that relevant?
So,
Is
it
that relevant?
Okay, so when
Whether or not I remember
when Jews
being
go
raped
through it as
with
a
a
rite
knife.
of passage from man to boy, that's,
Did I choose that? Did I choose that rite
you
of
did
passage?
it. But what makes it okay for you to go and say, "Oh, this is sexual assault" or whatever?
Because it was done to me. And even if it
And
wasn't done to
you
me,
wish-
it's done to thousands of babies every boy.
And you unknowingly, as a infant that can't even remember,
How is that relevant?
is fucking.
But before
it's
you
so,
okay,
it's so,
before you bring that up, okay, I'm gonna set some rules there because I didn't come here to waste time.
I'm not
All right?
wasting time.
If-
I'm not
tell
wasting
me-
time,
tell
but
me
you
how
fucking
that's-
offended me.
I don't care. So what if you're
Of course
offended?
you don't care.
Who gives
But if
a
I
fuck
touch
if
you, you're
you're
gonna run like
offended?
a bitch to the police.
Who cares if you're offended? This is America.
Of course,
I have a
of
right
course,
to offend you.
of course you don't give a fuck, because you didn't fight for those freedoms you're fucking representing.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Active duty.
Really?
Fort
when?
Carson.
When?
2008 to 2011.
2008 to 2011.
I deployed
Well, try 10
to
fucking
Iraq
years,
and
motherfucker.
Afghanistan.
All right?
And now you're gonna spit on the freedoms that you
Oh,
supposedly
really?
fought for.
So when somebody's offended, you say, "I don't give a fuck."
I don't have to care
Yeah.
if you're offended.
No, I'm not gonna chill out, man. No, I ain't having a good time.
I don't
anymore.
have to care if you're
So
offended.
me and him can have a fucking bad
I have
time.
a right to express my opinion.
Good time tonight, brother. Hey,
No,
loving
it's
y'all,
not a good
brother.
time.
You're
There-
all in this guy's face. Have you a good time tonight. Talk to you later.
trying to tell him, like, come on, can we just go and
No, because you don't fucking care how you affect other people.
You know why I don't care?
What?
Let the
Because
man stand for his
3,000
fucking
boys
stand,
every
bro.
day have a
That's
part of
your
their
man?
body cut off
Go ahead.
like it's
Catch you
nothing.
later, bro. Take it
Like
easy.
it's nothing.
Like it's
Take it
nothing.
And some of it is religious values
So
too.
what? Was
So,
I
so you
I
don't give a
religious?
fuck about religion either?
No, not at all.
Okay, so what
Not
the
at
fuck
all.
is your point?
Fuck religion.
So what's your point?
So my point
Motherfucker.
is, fuck religion.
So fuck religion,
Yup.
fuck what people believe.
Yup.
It's only what you fucking believe, and you don't give a fuck what you're fucking portraying up in your fucking air with
You
your
know
little
why?
goddamn sign.
You know why?
Why? Because you got a GoPro and you got the fucking police backing you up with some bullshit assault charge that I don't give
I
a
would
fuck
beat
about.
you in a debate.
You would beat me in a
hands down.
debate, you're kind of fucking losing it.
No.
You
You're-
haven't proven
you're
one point,
bringing in-
and you haven't fucking swung either.
I've
So
already-
you're a bitch, and you can't
I've
fucking
already
debate.
won the debate.
Well, come on
You
then.
just don't even realize it.
Really?
Yeah.
Then come on.
Because
You're
baby
acting
boys
crazy. Put your
have
motherfucking
rights.
hands up. You think you're so fucking bad, and you don't give a fuck about anybody else. Well, fuck you, and fuck your poster. Fucking swing this. And I will fucking end you in front of all these people.
I'm sure you would. You're a
Okay,
big guy.
then fucking do it. You're such a man. You don't give a fuck about other people's views or how they get offended, but you're gonna stand there and say, "Oh well, you know, I don't give a fuck. It's whatever I think. Fuck everybody else, right?" No, fuck you. Fuck you, bro.
You done?
You think the police are gonna save you? They're here to like protect and serve. I'm here to cause fucking riot. Fuck you, dude.
You done?
You got a point to prove? 'Cause
You
you
done?
haven't proven shit.
You done wasting my time?
Why? Because you have nothing to say? You don't have a retort for what I've proven?
Obviously, you're not trying to listen to anything I have to say. Cutting
What's
off
your-
part of a person's body is a violation of their rights. Do people not have rights? Isn't
They
that
do. They
Isn't
do.
that part of what you fought
They
for?
do. They
What you were
do.
willing to die for?
They do.
But now you're out here telling me I can't fight for rights?
What rights as an infant do you have to make the decision whether to be circumcised or not. But to
do you hear
portray
what you're
a
saying?
photo of a baby laying there with blood on his crotch,
Yeah.
you don't find that
That was
offensive?
me. That was 3,000
And that
boys
was me,
today.
and that was fucking him, and that was
Okay.
probably like 90% of the male population walking.
Think about that.
And it
90%,
doesn't affect me.
Well, you don't.
How does it affect you so deeply?
Research the foreskin. Research how many functions you lost. You don't know anything about the foreskin, and you're out here saying it doesn't affect you.
It doesn't affect me.
You don't know that because you never had it.
Have I died? Do
You
I
don't
have
know that
cancer? I'm
because-
almost 30. I am perfectly healthy. What is the problem?
There's plenty of problems.
Then tell me. Tell me one.
I'm not out
one
here.
major.
I'm pretty much done wasting my time with you.
If you're trying to prove a point, name one thing. Because you don't.
Here we go.
Hold on a second. You said prove one thing.
One thing.
I could prove 16 things to you if I have the fucking sticker on me. I might not.
Okay, so here we see him beginning to put forth his feeble attempt to justify the barbarous act of circumcision, or infant circumcision to be more specific. The protester says that it was unfair that as a boy he was strapped down and had a piece of his body removed without his consent, and he responds by insinuating that it does not matter and he is not a victim of forced genital mutilation, to which he did not consent because it happened so long ago that he doesn't even remember it, and this is frankly thinly veiled man-up rhetoric in my opinion. Now, ask yourself the question, would this gentleman say the same things about a woman who was slipped some Rohypnol in her drink at a club or a bar and raped 20 years ago? Imagine, if you will, that she wasn't aware of the rape until she found a video of it that the rapist recorded. Would he tell her that she shouldn't protest date rape because it was so long ago and she didn't remember it anyway? I've talked about this before, but what would happen if we started mutilating infant girls' vaginas for some perceived religious or health benefits? Would this guy say the same thing to them? Of course he wouldn't. And then he goes on to immediately attempt to rationalize circumcision with an appeal to religious Judaic doctrine. It's a rite of passage, he says, from being a boy to a man. Now it's funny that most people consider a rite of passage something that a 13-year-old boy might be asked to do by his family or by his culture or society, with of course the option of refusal being present throughout. These rituals can be manipulative at the age of 13 or 14 or 15 or 18, but at least they have a choice. In the case of infant circumcision, this is something that happens to a barely conscious infant baby that understands nothing of the world around him and doesn't even have the tools, such as language in this case, to actively refuse the procedure or even understand the procedure. There's a point where the protester says to this guy that he, quote, doesn't care if he's offended. And this was a bad idea as it immediately triggered a caveman response. This guy is intent on violence, and telling him that his feelings aren't cared about gives him the excuse to initiate the violent emotional and physical outburst this entire conversation has been about to him from the very beginning. Remember, gentlemen, guys like this operate on feelings much like a stereotypical emotional female. He just, again, has the strength to give his emotional outburst the added threat of physical injury without weapons. Women often do the same thing. They just call some hired government thug to do the dirty work for them. There's really not much of a difference here. And it's at this point that he tries the, entitled veteran, the world owes me everything approach. He, quote, fought for your freedoms. So now it's the rest of the world's job to align ourselves into a hive mind and only practice freedom of speech that he agrees with. This man was not drafted. He received room and board and a paycheck for every hour he spent supposedly defending the freedoms that he's now trying to suppress in his likely alcohol-infused moral posturing. And what he doesn't realize is that it's precisely the freedom of thought and speech that was included in the Constitution that helped create a country so economically successful, so trailblazing, and so technologically advanced that he could even be offered a gun and fatigues to serve in its military in the first place. Without the defense of freedom of speech, I make the argument that America would not have made it to becoming a world superpower because they wouldn't have been able to share the necessary ideas that made it so, because of course idiots like these would be there to curb stomp you once you put forward an innovative idea he didn't like. The wealth that came from that freedom of speech is what eventually went on to pay this guy's salary, but that's another video entirely. But again, religion gets brought into the mix, and it is then used for the alpha male brute to once again steer the conversation back to the threat of violence. He even admits that what he's doing will likely get him arrested, and he doesn't care because his feelings are above the law, And again, from the very beginning of this conversation, he was already intent on starting a violent confrontation. It was likely a subconscious mating display, a little bit of violent plumage to adorn himself with for the females passing by, combined with the phenomenon of beer muscles. And if you've ever been out to these clubs, you know what I'm talking about. These idiots, gentlemen, are like 90% of the reason I stopped going out to bars and clubs. These imbeciles love to ruin everyone else's good time. They're pissed off at the world for a multitude of reasons that probably have nothing to do with you. They have something to prove and are essentially 200, 300-pound children intent on throwing tantrums that don't very much care who they have to lash out at to do so. In particular, his behavior and decidedly more aggressive stance and tone after religion was brought up could be thought of as the second triggering of the encounter for anyone keeping count. So a little bit after this, he actually goes and adopts a fighting stance. And the protester calms him down for a little bit. And after this, they actually start discussing the ethics of circumcision for a moment, but this is for a brief time only. And the protester actually seems to draw a blank when he's asked to name some of the negative effects of circumcision. He eventually gives him a card detailing a number, I believe it was 16 negative effects of infant male circumcision. But I really wish he would have been better prepared because it gave the impression of him being uninformed in this case. However, to the protester's credit, I don't know if I would be able to rattle off facts on circumcision if I had some meathead Jersey Shore character threatening me with violence in this way. So in that sense, I do understand. And I think overall, he gave this, brick wall a very logical rebuttal to almost everything he said. But it was, of course, futile, but well presented given the circumstances.
Here. Follow that link when you get home. 16 functions lost.
I think you should
1,
really be aware
6.
of what the fuck you're putting up in the air.
I think you should be aware of what you cut off of your son's body. And because you're going to have to apologize to him someday.
I'm not going to apologize for shit.
You're going to have to. And if you don't, if you have another son, please.
Talk about my son again.
You brought him up, dude.
Say one more minute.
You brought him up. I'm just telling you. That's why I'm out here, so nobody else has to apologize.
I'm not apologizing to myself.
I'm trying to save people from having to do that. You know how many people are going to thank me for being out here tonight? I've had like 200 people thank me for being out here. More than that, maybe. Okay?
More than what, baby?
More than what? Thanking me for being out here. And you know how many more are going to thank me when they realize I saved them from making possibly the worst mistake of their life?
I swear to God, what the fuck are you saying?
Where's my sign? He's gonna steal my sign.
And at this point, he talked about the guy's son who he circumcised, which was a big mistake. I think that the protester's main mistake here, again, is that he assumes this guy is operating off of anything other than pure emotion, and bringing his family into the equation in such a personal way is a surefire way to set this guy off. It's about as dependable as a cat going into attack mode when you drag a toy mouse on a string across his face. To the degree that consciousness is a thing, this individual is barely scraping the threshold of sentience and should generally be treated the same way you would a high-stakes sign language mediation with an angry 400-pound silverback gorilla. I mean, it's really that primitive and it is that dependent on autopilot. This is only barely an exaggeration as far as I'm concerned. These people cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be persuaded. They have their minds made up, and that's that. Learn this lesson before you have to learn it on some pub crawl. And the video culminates with him finally attacking the protester, predictably. And there's pretty much really nothing else to say other than the fact that, I'm interested in your guys' interpretation of this exchange. We talk about female nature a lot here, but I think this is an excellent opportunity to deconstruct not the toxic masculinity that feminists talk about, but the actual toxic masculinity on display here. Violence-prone individuals that derive great pleasure out of, beating senseless, more diminutive men that have a leg up on them in terms of the intellectual department. So please analyze in the comment section, gentlemen. Okay folks, so this should be my last short video for a while. I'm currently finishing up a chapter on what I think is a unique perspective on the phenomenon of the social justice warrior in the book, so I'm getting back to that. Feel free to check out my site, sheddingoftheego.com. I currently have 2 brand new articles, one by a MGTOW named Max Hydrogen, one of my favorite guest bloggers featured on my site, and another from an excellent, fairly new channel on YouTube by the name of Golden Eagle Owl. I think both these articles are very interesting. Please check them out. As well, lastly, please visit my podcast on Podomatic.com. The first half of my next hour-long video titled Hybristophilia, the female attraction to violence, should be on there if you wish to listen to it early. I really do need you guys to download these episodes and leave reviews on the iTunes link for my podcast. In return, you'll either get content that won't appear on my channel or content that will appear much earlier. So please check that out, and more to come, gentlemen.